right, so today I want to talk about the PubSub design pattern. That's the publish subscribe design pattern. This is an approach that you can take to building web applications where you can build individual components, or you can build a component, somebody else builds a component, and I don't have to know about your code, you don't have to know about my code. Our components don't have to have any code inside of them that knows anything about the other component. All I have to worry about is how my component functions. So if I were building this actors component, this is a list of actors, I could just focus on what this thing needs to do. I need to be able to add names of actors to this list. I need to be able to remove names of actors from this list. That's all I have to worry about. So where do I get the names of this? Well, I need to ask somebody else about the actor's name. I need to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to a common component. I'm going to create a PubSub component, and it's going to be responsible for all communication between all of my components. So I've got the movies component, the actors component. I've got a movie form, an actor form, and a list. And each one of these components doesn't know anything that's going on outside of it. All it's going to do is, if it does something, it's going to tell my PubSub component, hey, I just did a thing of this kind, and here's the data associated with that thing that I just did. So as an example, when I add an actor's name, say Tom Hanks, there we go. This now knew that this happened. This component doesn't know anything about this, but it sent that information off to the PubSub component. The PubSub component then broadcast this message saying, hey, anybody who cares about actors being added, here's one that was just added. The actors component, it's subscribed to this PubSub component and says, let me know if anybody anywhere does something called actors added. I want to know, and then give me the data associated with that. So if I come in here again and we say Tom Hardy, there we go. I just sent to PubSub the fact that I'm doing this message here, and I've got console logs throughout my code that I'm going to show you in a minute. So right here, my actor form component, that's this thing. It just called this actor added event with the data Tom Hardy. It passed that to the PubSub component. The PubSub component then made a broadcast saying this event happened with this data to anybody who ever asked about it, and the actors component had subscribed to this guy. If I go back in my notes here, or in my console statements, we can look for actors. There it is. Actors wanted to know if an actor was added. So it subscribed to PubSub. And that's this next line here, PubSub. Somebody just subscribed to know about actor added. So I've got this happening in the PubSub component. He asked PubSub to let him know if actor added happened somewhere. The actor form said, hey, all right, I'm just adding Tom Hanks. PubSub received that and then did a broadcast back to the actors because it asked to be subscribed to that actor added list. Here's the mailing list for actor added. You got that data. Same thing with movies. If I put something in here, it adds it to that list. And the way it's doing this is it will listen for something that's coming from PubSub. Now, this passed it to PubSub. PubSub then published it down to here. So we've got publish, which is when an element pushes something up to PubSub. We've got an element that says subscribe, that says, I want to know about that. And then the PubSub component will broadcast that down. Okay, so we've got all these things. And I've even added in here the ability to delete. We can do that too. So actor added. If I click on Tom Hardy, it's going to remove Tom Hardy from here. And if I clear this list out so we just see the new comments, click on Tom Hardy. Okay, so my actors component, this guy, he ran a function when I clicked on there called actor deleted. That told PubSub, hey, I've just done the actor deleted event, and here's the data. So PubSub received that and then said, all right, I'm going to make a broadcast saying that this event happened, and here's the new version of the list associated with this thing. My stats component received that. So the stats component said, great, I had subscribed to actor deleted. I wanted to know that. So that's why this actors list is now at 2. If I click on another one, it's now down to 1. If I click on this one again, it's now down to 0. And this component knows nothing about what's going on here. All it knows is it told PubSub, I want to subscribe to this thing. All right, so let's jump into the code and see how this is working. In my web page, I've got a simple little interface. I've got a main element and a side. I've got a footer, nothing in the footer right now, but inside the main element, this is where I'm going to be putting the actors and the movies. Inside the aside, I'm going to put the 2 forms, and I'm going to put the stats component. I created some template elements just to make it easy so I wouldn't have to create all the HTML. I'm going to use these templates to build those various components, and I've got a script here. Now the templates aren't necessarily something with PubSub. That's just the way I chose to build this. I'm using templates to quickly build the interface. In my script, I'm using type equals modules so I can do the ES modules import. If we look at main.js, this is my main script. You can see my movies, my actors, movie form, actor form, and stats components. Those are all in their own form. I did this just to break the code up to make it easier to find the code associated with different things. My main and the aside, those are inside the HTML. Now each of my components that I imported, movies, movie form, stats, actors, actor form, these all have a render method. And I'm passing in, hey, where do you want to put this component? That's all it is. That's all this page does, is it grabs these components and says, okay, call the render method for all these things. So let's take a look at the actors. We'll do that one first. Inside of actors, I have a property called list. This is just going to be an array where I store the names of all the actors that get added. It's going to be the list of everything that's written out on the page. My render method, I'm grabbing the template, I'm copying it, and then I'm adding a click listener. This is for my delete. So as I add actors' names, I can click on them to delete them. The last thing I do inside of my render is I subscribe. I tell PubSub, hey, I want to know when an event of actor added happens. This is my function. So inside my actors component, there's a method called actor added, which is right here. And this actor added method is going to get called from PubSub every time actor added happens. When somebody, somewhere, some component says, I just did a thing called actor added, this PubSub component is going to call my function right here, actors actor added. This gets called when PubSub tells me that some actor has been added. The new name gets passed in. So what I'm doing is I'm using a set to remove duplicates just in case I already had that actor's name. Then I'm going to convert it back to an array. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm adding the new one and I'm converting it back to a sorted list, a sorted array. Once I've done that, then I'm going to do my UI stuff. I'm going to clear out the old list. I'm going to loop through it and I'm going to build all my new list item components. That's all I'm doing here is I'm just adding it to the actual list. Now, somewhere inside my function here, I need to also do this thing. I have to call actors updated. This is going to tell the PubSub component, hey, I just updated my list. So if anybody cares about what list I have now, here's a copy of the list. And this is what I'm calling the event, actors updated. My actors list has been updated. Okay, great. So that's happening. Now let's look at the PubSub component and see where these methods are. Okay, PubSub has a property called events. Inside of here, we're going to create something. So it's going to look something like this. Somebody calls the subscribe method, like here. Actor added. My actor list wants to subscribe and know when actor added happened. Okay, so when my actors component does this thing, subscribe, what the code is going to do is it's going to come into events and say, actor added is a new type of event that can happen. And we're going to set it to an empty array to start with. That's this first line. It's checking to see, okay, does this thing exist? No. Then make it an empty array. So PubSub.events evName. evName is going to be actor added. So it's an empty array. And then we're going to add the function. The function that gets passed in here when subscribe gets called. So what was it? It was actors actor added. So this is what's going to happen. The actors component has a method called this. Now, right now, this page is completely unaware of this. So it's being done internally after the actors page has loaded PubSub. We can see up at the top here, it's actually importing PubSub to make it available on this page. So once it is, now this is a method that's able to be called. We can call this at some point, like here, publish. When somebody says publish, like the actor form is going to publish actor added. When somebody fills in the form, types in an actor's name and clicks enter, or clicks on the submit button from inside there, I'm using prevent default to stop the page from reloading, but I'm still grabbing that input value, saving it as name, and then I'm going to pass name along with this name right here, actor added. So my actor form is saying, hey, I've just added somebody, and here's the person I've just added. It doesn't know what's going to happen with that. It doesn't need to know what's going to happen. It's just telling PubSub, hey, you know what? Tell people who care about actor added that I've just added this name. So down in here, actor added and the name that was just added. If that exists in here, let's minimize these guys so we can see up top. There it is, events actor added. So if actor added exists, and it does, or yeah, right here, actor added, if that exists, then what I want to do is I'm going to loop through everything inside actor added. This is an array. Right now there's only one thing, but there could be something else. There could be movies actor added. Maybe the movies component cares about that, and it subscribed to the PubSub component so it knows about it. So when publish happens, we're going to loop through this array, and for each one of those, we're going to actually call that function, and we're going to pass in data, which was the name that was just added. And that's how this works. So the actor form says publish. This guy calls the functions that belong to anybody who subscribed to this. All right, so I better delete this so it doesn't actually mess up our code. Back in here, every time, so if I refresh this page, we can see all the things that are happening to set this up. Movies wants to know if a movie is added, so it wants to know if something happened over here. PubSub said somebody just subscribed to that, somebody just subscribed to movies updated, and that was stats. Stats is listening for the movies updated event. So he wants to know about movies updated, he wants to know about movies added, he wants to know about actors added, he wants to know about actors updated, and he also wants to know about actors deleted. Tom Hanks, Hiddleston, Hardy. There we go. There's 3 because it heard 3 times about the fact that actor was added with Tom Hardy. Actor added with Tom Hiddleston. So we've got all these things happening. We know that actor added happened a bunch of times. And then after each one of these actor added, this actor component said, hey, you know what? I just did an actor update. It tells PubSub. PubSub then broadcasts the new list. This guy cares about that list. So right now, delete will work. I can keep deleting. The delete message goes back and forth. So let's just add it to the movies. We'll do the same thing as the actors, because right now I can't delete If I click on these, nothing happens. So let's add that in here so you can see how that happens as well. So we've got actors, actor form. We'll open up movie form and movies. So inside of movie form, this is where we've got an add method. We broadcast movie added. Okay, movie added. The movies component is listening for that. So inside of here, we are subscribing in the movies component to this event. Great. We want to know this is the function that's going to get called right here. It does the same thing as the actor. It's going to update the list. It's going to say, hey, I've updated it. Here's the new version of my list. And then it updates what's in the list. So if I want to be able to delete, I need to add something in here. Inside my render method, I'm going to add a click listener for the UL that exists inside of movies. And it's going to be this one right here. Okay, so that is the UL that is inside my movie component. I want to add a click listener. So we'll say add event listener. We're going to listen for a click. And when the click happens, we're going to call something inside of our component, movies dot. Let's just call it deleted. This is just a function that we're creating inside of here. So deleted, it's going to get an event passed in. And our item is going to be the list item that was clicked on. So we're going to say ev.target. Now that could be, it's most likely going to be the li, but it could be technically something that's inside of one of the list items as well if we were doing something different. So I'm just going to use closest to make sure I get the li, just in case it was something else inside of the li that actually got clicked. So that's our item, and I want to get the name of the movie. So name is going to be item.textContent. That's the name of the movie that was just clicked on. I need to remove that from my list, which is movies.list. And new version of that, we'll just filter it. There we are. So that's filtering. We're now down to one less than we had before. We removed the one that was just clicked on. Now I need to tell the PubSub component, hey, you know what? I just did a movie deleted thing. That's what we're going to call our event. So PubSub, publish. Tell everyone who cares that I just did something called movie deleted. That's what I'm going to call this event. And here is the new version of the list. Now I should also actually remove the item from the page itself. So we'll say item.parentElement. There, that will actually remove the movie title that we click on from that. Okay, so let's add in some movies here. All right, we have some movies, so let's delete that. And when I click on this, it should remove District 9, sure enough. And we're telling PubSub, hey, publish, make a broadcast about movie deleted with Alien and Avatar. That's the new version of my list. Okay, great, it did that. But stats still says 3. I delete another one, it still says 3. I delete another one, it still says 3. And that's because we don't have code over here to affect other components. That's the whole idea behind PubSub is I can do stuff and I don't need to know how anybody else implements what I'm doing. So over here, inside the stats component, this guy needs to subscribe to movie deleted. It needs to know, and it has to give PubSub a function to call when this thing happens. So that's in our stats component. We're going to build a new thing over here. We're subscribing to actor deleted, but we also want to listen for PubSub subscribe. I want to know if movie deleted. I want to know if that happens. And then what do I want to call? What function do I want to call? Do I want to build a new function? Well, I actually already have a function that accepts a list and it updates the count. It updates the interface already. So I can just use this one. I can say, you know what? I've already got a function. I don't have to write anything new. Just because somebody else in some other component has added new functionality, I've already got the functionality to update my list. And that's it. That's all I have to do is call the existing method to update the text that's inside of this thing with the new value for list.length. That's the list of movies. What's its length? I'm updating this thing. So that's all I had to do was one line of code. This guy added some new functionality. It wrote an entirely new function. It's publishing the fact that it's doing this thing. All I had to do was subscribe to that. And I already had the functionality to update this. So, alien, avatar. There we are. And I delete one, I'm down to 2. Delete another, I'm down to 1. Delete another, I'm down to 0. And we can see that the stats was doing the movie updated. It was using its movie updated function, and it was listening for this. It was subscribing for movie deleted, and then every time PubSub said, hey, movie deleted, it just had to call its own update method, which it had already written for the adding. And that's it. That is the PubSub design pattern. It's all about separating concerns, separating the components into different pieces, making sure that they only care about their own thing, and then broadcasting. So they tell this central PubSub component what's going on. They're saying, here's an event, here's some data. Here's an event, here's some data. That's all they do. They call the publish method, and here's an event, here's the data. If they want to know about things that other components are doing, they subscribe to the PubSub's. There it is. They subscribe to the PubSub's event list, saying, hey, here's an event that I care about. If anybody ever tells you about something that is of this type, give me the data. I want to know about it. So when publish happens, if somebody's listening, that message gets sent to them and their function gets called. Now, you don't have to call these things subscribe, unsubscribe, publish. Unsubscribe just means I don't care anymore about the event. Remove me from this list. You can also see this type of code implemented with on, off, or emit as the method names, or add, remove, announce, or listen and unlisten. The name itself doesn't matter that much. The design pattern's called PubSub just because these tend to be the method names that are used, but you can call it anything you want. It's all about separating those concerns and having one central component that is responsible for all communication between all the components. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. I'll answer as many as I can. And as always, thanks for watching.